Ever wondered what it's like to fight for your life while thousands cheer? Welcome to ancient Rome's craziest job posting, professional gladiator. From basic training to retirement, if you survived, we're breaking down history's most dangerous career path. Here's a wild thought. Some people actually chose to become gladiators. I know, right? But listen to this. If you were drowning in debt or just really wanted fame and glory in ancient Rome, signing up as a gladiator wasn't the craziest idea. These volunteers, called octorati, would swear a crazy oath that basically said, "I'm cool with being burned, chained up, and killed." They get a signing bonus worth about 3 months' salary, though most blew it immediately on one last party. But it wasn't just the desperate who signed up. Some rich young guys would join just for the thrill and fame. Think of them as the ancient Roman version of extreme sports athletes, except with way higher stakes. Welcome to the Ludus, ancient Rome's most hardcore training camp. These gladiator schools made modern boot camps look like kindergarten. Your typical day? Wake up at dawn, eat a special high-protein diet, yeah, Romans invented the athlete meal plan, and train until you could barely stand. They'd start you with a wooden sword that weighed twice as much as a real one. Talk about arm day. The trainers, called doctores, were usually retired gladiators who'd survived the arena. These guys knew every trick in the book and weren't afraid to use tough love. But here's the cool part. They actually had ancient sports medicine. Special healers would patch you up after training, using everything from herbal remedies to early versions of physical therapy. Think your daily routine is tough? Let me walk you through a day in the life of a gladiator. These guys lived like a weird mix of pro athletes and prisoners. Their day kicked off with a breakfast that would make any bodybuilder jealous. Loads of beans, barley, and dried fruit for energy. But here's the kicker. They were basically vegetarians. Scientists studying gladiator bones found they ate almost no meat. They even drank this wild calcium cocktail made from crushed bones and ashes. Ancient Gatorade, anyone? Between training sessions, they'd get massages and hot baths, but don't get too jealous. They lived in tiny cells, 4 to a room, and were chained up at night. Talk about a strict curfew. Ready to meet the ancient world's most colorful fighters? Think of gladiator types like character classes in a video game, each with their own special weapons and super flashy armor. You've got the retiarius, who fought with a net and trident like some deadly fishermen. Then there's my personal favorite, the murmillo, rocking a fish-shaped helmet. Yeah, the Romans had a weird sense of style. The thraex carried a tiny curved sword and looked like they'd raided a heavy metal concert's wardrobe. And don't even get me started on the hopla manchus. These show-offs wore more bling than a rap star. Each style had its fans, and crowds would go wild when their favorite type stepped into the arena. You might think ancient Roman medicine was all leeches and guesswork, but the doctors who patched up gladiators were surprisingly sophisticated. These arena medics could stitch wounds, set broken bones, and even perform basic surgery. They had special tools like bronze forceps and surgical hooks that wouldn't look totally out of place in today's hospitals. The coolest part? They discovered that copper and silver had antimicrobial properties, so they'd use these metals in their treatments. Talk about ahead of their time. And get this, gladiator blood and sweat were considered premium medicine. Rich Romans would literally drink it, thinking it would cure everything from epilepsy to a common cold. Gross? Absolutely. But it shows just how valuable these fighters were even when they were bleeding. Let's talk about the rewards of being a successful gladiator. And trust me, they were way better than just not dying. If you managed to win enough fights, you'd become a superstar. I'm talking about getting your face on pottery, ancient Roman merch, people naming their kids after you, and women throwing their jewelry into the arena. The real jackpot. After enough victories, you'd receive a wooden sword called a rudis, your ticket to freedom. But here's the twist. Many freed gladiators stuck around as trainers or bodyguards because they'd made such a name for themselves. Some even earned enough to buy fancy houses and live like nobility. Who knew getting stabbed for a living could be such a sweet gig? You might think gladiator fights were just a boys' club, but hold on to your helmets. Women fought in the arena too. These female fighters, called gladiatresses, were just as tough as their male counterparts. Ancient records show they used the same weapons, followed the same brutal training, and yes, drew the same massive crowds. Emperor Nero particularly loved watching women warriors duke it out. But here's the plot twist. In 200 AD, Emperor Septimius Severus banned women from fighting. Why? Because these awesome lady gladiators were becoming too popular. Apparently, some Roman nobles thought it was scandalous to see upper-class women choosing to throw down in the arena. Want to know who invented celebrity endorsements? Spoiler alert, it wasn't Instagram influencers, it was gladiators. These ancient fighters were marketing gold. Their faces showed up everywhere, on oil lamps, vases, and even kids' toys. Graffiti artists would paint epic fight scenes on walls, complete with dramatic play-by-play commentary. Gladiator trading cards, you bet. Romans collected little clay discs with fighter stats, just like baseball cards today. Smart lanistas, gladiator managers, would create dramatic rivalries and backstories for their fighters. They'd spread rumors, stage dramatic entrances, and basically wrote the playbook for modern sports promotion. Sound familiar, WWE fans? So you've survived the arena. Congrats. But what's next for a retired gladiator? Turns out hanging up your sword could lead to some pretty sweet career options. Many became celebrity trainers at gladiator schools, sharing their hard-earned wisdom with rookies. Others cashed in on their fame as bodyguards for wealthy Romans, because who wouldn't want a famous arena fighter watching their back? The really business-savvy ones opened their own training schools, or became arena promoters. And here's a fun twist. Some even became public speakers. Think about it. If you could keep your cool fighting lions, giving a speech would be a piece of cake. You won't believe what scientists are digging up about gladiators. Recent excavations are totally changing what we thought we knew. In Turkey, they found a gladiator graveyard that spilled all the secrets. Turns out these fighters were mostly vegetarians who drank bone ash smoothies for calcium. DNA analysis shows they came from all over the Roman Empire, making the arena like an ancient UFC with fighters from every corner of the world. And those famous helmets? They've found some with built-in shock absorbers. Ancient Romans were way ahead of their time with sports safety gear. The coolest part? We can now reconstruct actual gladiator faces using 3D modeling. These guys don't look like Russell Crowe. They were way more diverse and interesting. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride through the arena. If you enjoyed learning about history's most dangerous job, smash that like button and subscribe for more ancient adventures. Share with your friends. They need to know how good they've got it. See you next time.